Hello, and welcome to Virtual Coffee, the Brown Bag Edition. Virtual Coffee's mission is to be a welcoming tech community that allows room for growth and mentorship at all levels, and to create meaningful opportunities for leadership, learning, and contribution for everyone. If you want to learn more about Virtual Coffee or check out our code of conduct, you can see it on the website at virtualcoffee.io. We are really glad to have you all here with us today, and I especially want to thank Gant for being here again. We really love doing these brown bags. If you want to do one or you have a topic you'd like to see, please feel free to check out the brown bag channel and our members only Slack. If you want to become a member, you can come to one of our coffees on Tuesday or Thursday, and you can check out our events page for more information on how to do that. So now I want to welcome Gant Laborde, who is an owner of Infinite Red. He is a mentor, an adjunct professor, a published author, and an award-winning speaker. For 20 years, he has been involved in software development and continues strong today. He's recognized as a Google developer expert in web and machine learning, but informally, he is an open sorcerer and aspires to one day become a mad scientist. He blogs, does videos, and maintains popular repositories for the community. So thank you so much for being here with us today to talk about publishing a book with Tensorflow Js and O'Reilly.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Becca. That is a fantastic introduction. You no longer owe me a favor, so we're good now.
I
Hey,
don't know about
everybody.
that. I think I still owe you at least a handful.
Hey, here's my plan for this, right? I've been thinking about what's the best way to kind of go about this, and I've been talking to a bunch of different people. And the way this kind of came about is having people ask questions about. I recently released that I'm publishing my second book, and this one's being published with O'Reilly. The first one was published with Pact Publishing back in 2014. So people have all kinds of really cool questions, all kinds of stuff about that. Now, the questions vary all the way from why do I care about TensorFlow JS, or what the hell is it, or what can I do, what's going on in the book, and all these other cool things. But inevitably, people ask questions about the publishing process. They ask questions about the book process. They ask questions about how much is that your job versus another job. And the question is sort of like, well, with Pact Publishing, it was my job. With O'Reilly, they've got a person, stuff like that. And so inevitably, these two are inextricable, and a lot of people have really cool questions. And so I said to myself, you know what, Gant? Let's go ahead and write a blog post that answers all these fun questions. And I could come up with the questions myself or kind of like somewhat recollect them. But I found that I always enjoy interacting with smart, fun, and awesome people. So the idea here is that I can answer questions, talk about TensorFlow JS, talk about the book, talk about all kinds of cool things. And when you have questions, I'd love to, with your permission, put you in a blog post, cite you as the author of a question, and you can say, "Hey, don't mention me. I'm supposed to be like off the grid. No one knows where I live." All right, fine. I won't say who said the question. But if you would like to share in some of the fun and the energy of all this stuff, I'd love to like go ahead and quote you and put you in a blog post, and then we can kind of share that all together. If you have a Medium or a Twitter handle, I think that these questions are fun and exciting. So my goal here is going to be, one, to hopefully get some of the fun questions from each and all of you, and two, show you some of the process that sort of invokes those questions and kind of gets them started for you. So just as a tidbit, I have been a developer for 20 years. Um, we work a lot in React Native at Infinite Red. So if anybody is looking to get a mobile app done, come see us at Infinite Red. We will take care of you, and we can take care of all the different platforms that these things come into. And then lately, with the advent of like AI taking on all these different fronts, we have TensorFlow JS, which also follows that sort of JavaScript goes everywhere sort of mentality. So we have a fantastic company here where we've been working with everybody, And one of the things that we're really pushing into is like making sure that, you know, we're placing ourselves in the proper position for artificial intelligence. And so that's why I have the book. The book is a place for us to sort of like set ourselves up and saying that this is what we can also do. These are the things that can happen. But I'm very interested in the questions at a company level, at a personal level, and then maybe you also are interested in possibly, I don't know, one day, if you, some of you might have already written a book and I don't know, I'd love to hear about that. And then some of you might be interested in what the process is. So this brown bag is constructed in a way where I can show you different aspects of the book writing process and the book itself, but you can ask questions about any piece of this, and we will put those inside of a blog post that later on, hopefully, we can show everybody else. Does that sound good to everybody? I see some thumbs up. Yeah, see nodding heads. Good stuff. Perfect. Okay. So the way I'd like to do that is at any point, feel free to stop and let's go down the rabbit hole together. Normally, I tend to sort of have a lot to say and I want to get to the end of it. And I'm happy to answer questions along the way, but we're trying to get there. Here, I'm inviting us to sort of go off on the path that's most exciting to each and every one of you. And I think that that's the part that I can't go back and recognize for myself from 6 months ago. You know, I'll be like, oh, what's really interesting? What did I not know? That's what I'm depending on you for. So with that, I'll go ahead and I will kind of get started in some of these. And if anybody has a question, immediately jump in. And also feel free to put your questions on the side in the chat if you want to as well. So we'll start off here with a question that I have gotten a lot. I don't have a particular person who starts off there. So it says, how the hell do you get started writing a book? Right? It seems like to a lot of people, that it's an insurmountable task. Or I know that we have a writing group here, and Becca, you are writing constantly, and it's very impressive. As a matter of fact, I really want to call out a tweet that you had the other day. I was going to get some work done, and then my brain just served up a blog post instead, right?
Yep.
I love when that happens. You ride the wave of creativity, and that's a sign. Honestly, I'm calling it right now. Becca is going to write a book about something. I don't know what it is. Are you already getting ready to write one?
I'm working on a course right now, and I've done other
Ah,
creative projects, but nothing for code yet.
has anybody here written a book before? Don't see any hands. Does anybody write a blog posts a lot? I know Becca does. I see some wiggling heads now. Some kind ofs.
No,
Oh,
that
yeah, I
was
see.
that was a wish. That was a wish. I was like, I'd wish.
Short stories absolutely count. Thank you, Kirk. And is anybody like working on any kind of like mostly writing or teaching materials, like writing a course like Becca's doing? Written a few docs, drafts, lots of drafts. Oh, I know the pain. If I open up my Medium right now, you will see almost as many drafts as I have actual like published blog posts right now. And someone's trying to journal. I love it. I love it. So I would say the first thing that happens here is that the trick is to just get started writing. Write knowing and making peace that you may throw away an entire chapter. If you can't help yourself, if you I've tapped into what Becca's like kind of saying, if you can find a wave and ride it, then you are on your way to being able to do a lot of these things. I could tell you this. I knew that the first chapter was trash when I first wrote it. I was like, oh no, you know, like this is going to be terrible. I wrote it anyway. The current first chapter is nothing like what I wrote that first day. That was just getting the oil and the smoke out of the engine. You just hear that engine start up like, pah, pah, like that. That's how it always feels starting. That's not how it runs once it gets started there. So dissertation equals throw away a lot of what you wrote. Yeah, exactly. So what I'd say is really important here is the first lesson, if you are interested, is be like Becca. Be like a person who's ready to write just when you feel the vibe, and then make it so that that's something that you can't help. You learn something new and you found that you've sort of written it, and get it out of your drafts folder. Get it published. That's the next step of it. It doesn't have to be the best thing you've ever written, but start getting your stuff out there and start feeling like it's actually getting written. Now, I've written a ton of different articles for a bunch of different companies. And so let me see if I could show you some of these things. So I'll pull up a website real quick, show you. So those of you who don't know, by the way, everybody should be following me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. So it's like the most important rule here, because I like connecting with people well after these things. And I want people to message me. Okay, you should see my website right now. I believe you do. And then we go to like writings and stuff. And so we have the writing there. But look, it's really fun to get published with other publishers too. So like I have tons of stuff inside of our main company blog post, but like there's all kinds of fantastic places that will publish your stuff. They'll create, oh, I didn't mean to go to the article. Whoops. Okay. There's fantastic places that have all kinds of cool stuff that want you to get published with it and write. And once you find that you're just able to write things when you learn them and you kind of put it in that form, you're pretty much ready to start constructing a book. Like you learn something new and you're like, you know what, I'm going to put this in a form that's digestible for myself 6 months from now. It's sort of like writing code, right? So I'll say like one of the things that we do for code is add comments. Okay. Comment your stuff so that way you can come back to it or someone else can come back to it. Next level is you write the docs for the stuff. And the level after that is you write blog posts for the stuff. And then from there, you're just a hop skip away from enough blog posts to equal essentially a book because you just like writing. Okay. So I think that, yeah. Oh, wait, there's apparently a book called Poopy First Drafts. I went ahead and I edited that for you, Becca.
I think it's a chapter in the book. So I think the book itself is called Bird by Bird. And
Okay.
then that is, yes, thank you, the edited version of the article that is very good at talking about, just getting it down.
I love this. That we should probably collect a bit of this. Can you send me that? I'll put that in the article as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have like terrible first drafts, call it that. The write or die strategy. Yeah. Writer's chain is another thing that people have done. Have you ever heard of the writer's chain or the Git committers chain, where every day you want to kind of get, and it can be like mentally draining. So be careful. Don't do this. People have gotten really on GitHub for their GitHub commits graph. But as a writer, you do want that. As a open source contributor, you do want that. You want to make sure that you're kind of like building it into your muscle memory. It's something that you do. It's something that you think of. So to try to get those green dots continuous. And you try to, and one thing GitHub used to do is show you how many days in a row you've ever had like commits. So, someone would have like 1,000 commits in a row. They've never missed a weekend or a Saturday or Sunday or something like that. Current Twitter, I believe, is very much against the GitHub graph. But I will say this in defense, it is an old writer's trick. If you don't use GitHub, you can use whatever. If you just have a calendar and you have like, I need to keep this sort of like vibe running, you can have what's called the writer's chain, which is you put an X each day that you've written. And the goal is to make that chain as long as possible, not to skip. And that sort of like makes it a little bit more your actual presence. And you can, when you get a wave, you can ride it for far longer. So does anybody have any questions yet? Something like that, no? Does anybody, so no one here has said they've written a book before. I want to kind of throw this out there. It is not hard to get a book deal in tech. So you might have been raised thinking like, oh, wow, when something is published or like in a fictionary sense, it's very hard to get. That is true. In tech, it's not hard. As a matter of fact, publishing is not a barrier in the tech world. You can also self-publish. Quite a few of the people who are out there are self-publishing nowadays. If anybody has any questions about self-publishing, we can go down that avenue as well. But if you have a bucket list item, does anybody here like grew up sort of like reading O'Reilly books? That's what I did. I loved O'Reilly books a lot. Yeah, I saw some, like, it was fantastic just to see these. Like, I have tons of them, like right here, right out of camera view. And so one of the things I'll say that's really great is it was always on my list. I was like, how do you get into like O'Reilly? Well, you just have to get an introduction. And then if you get an introduction, which I'm happy to do for anybody who has a book idea, you write a prospectus of what the chapters would be, and then you send that off, and that's it. It's not that hard. So it's pretty interesting. And it's pretty exciting for that part of it. One of the things that I'll say is like the prospectus is not at all what I ended up writing. So I told them 12 chapters that included all kinds of stuff. And once I started writing it, I was like, that was wrong. And guess what they said? We figured. That's what happens when you start writing a book. It's so much easier than I thought it would be. And then you just keep writing, and then they're like, oh, that's the next chapter that needs to happen? Okay. So I see Kirk saying we'll be interested. You also need an idea. That's true. It's true. The idea part's pretty important. And they have to already not have a book already on it. But for the most part, that's pretty easy. Awesome. So let me kind of show you, since this is an exclusive group. Yes, please.
On topic, just very quickly, I'm just curious how one, I mean, except us knowing you or like someone knowing you, how one can get an introduction to O'Reilly.
Yeah, so I think that it really is, weirdly enough, it's networking. It's a networking obligation. And so weird is that how I got it is I knew a person who knew a person. And I thought about it, and I had the conversation. I said, I'd be interested in kind of like, pitching an idea of a book or being an author again. And I said, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Now, there's two different publishing forms here. Pact Publishing, which is who I wrote for in 2014, is kind of not as established as O'Reilly. And the sort of anybody who's purchased a Pact Publishing book, it's a bit more all over the place with like the way things happen. They don't have like a specific like style. Like O'Reilly has the style, right? So Pact Publishing tends to like actively go out and pitch people on LinkedIn. And that's how they found me back in like 2013. So I did the 2014 book. I just had the technology that they thought a good idea for a book would be, and they went and found me. But O'Reilly was a little bit more, that's a great question. It was, okay, this is inside there. I was like, oh, you're inside the O'Reilly media like connection. I was like, is there, like, that would be fantastic. I'd love to see that. But it honestly was always there in by happenstance. Don't let it happen by happenstance. You know me now. And if you didn't know me, you could go make it happen anyway. If you said, hey, I want to do something for A-Press or I want to do something for Manning, you just have to ask, who's ever published a Manning book? Do you know them? Can I get an introduction? Can I get an introduction to your executive editor? And then boom, you've like by 4 connections, you've actually gotten yourself in there to do your pitch. So I would say like the barrier to entry is way smaller than anybody actually really knows. The hardest part is honestly just being a writer, which isn't that hard if Becca's already there. So I expect a book after your course, Becca. She's like, I have enough stuff to do, Gant. Don't say
it's on my list of things I want to do.
I'd love to hear what it's about, but hopefully, so this will help you out a lot. I'm going to sort of change frame to talk a little bit here to help maybe Becca out and more stuff, but please stop me and ask any questions or anything like that. So here's something. What the hell is the format? What is it like to do this? Like, what do you write in? And how many of you, I guess you could let me know in the chat, how many of you know Markdown? Like, almost everybody knows Markdown. Yeah, fantastic. I saw hands. They don't use Markdown. They use like some Markdown's evil twin. So no, they don't use LaTeX either. Well, LaTeX they use for math. So you have LaTeX for any kind of the math stuff. They use something called ASCII doc. So how many of you are familiar with ASCII doc? I see Kyle nodding. So ASCII doc, and it's not even the latest version of ASCII doc. It's like a little bit dated on it. So, but you write an ASCII doc and you get to upload it through Git. So you're using Git and GitHub, and you're using their particular platform, and it looks like that. So let me kind of just show you what the process looks like. They have a website that's sort of like the book GitHub. Let me see here. I'll show you a little bit of this. So this is called O'Reilly Atlas. And inside, you should see this, right? Hopefully. I always wonder if I'm sharing the right screen sometimes. I'm like, because they used to have like a little green line that would appear to show me what screen I was showing. And now I see it nowhere. So I'm like, okay. Is everybody reading my DMs, or are we looking at this? Okay, good. So this is the process here. Like this is just like their version of GitHub, right? And then these are the different ASCII doc files. And then you've got this set up. And then you can actually like click a button here and download the latest version of the book. And then that comes down in like a little PDF. So here's the PDF of like this version of the book. And you can kind of check the stuff out. And then they automatically generate some of the cool stuff there. But we can go over here and builds. And then I can like move chapters around. Oh no, sorry, and configure. And so I'm like, oh, I want this chapter to come first. Of course, I name them like this person, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna name this. So now I know exactly where they go. But yeah, they're in little ASCII docs. And then we've got the file. So what the hell does this look like? Let me go ahead and show you.
There's a question in the chat if
Yeah.
you can build it locally as well.
I don't. Let me show you what I do locally. That's a great question.
And the other, somebody said they thought one of the authors wrote a translation between MD and ASCII doc.
That would be amazing.
HandDoc, maybe, they thought.
The trick is I'd be very careful with that. I don't think that that's going to do what you think it's going to do. I'd be more careful with that. But here's a trick. I'm pretending that I'm like grooming you for this. Is that I usually just create the large folder structure, just like you would do a project. And then check this out. Here is the plugin that you want. It's called ASCII Doc Preview. So then you open ASCII Doc Preview, and this is what I use. So pretty much the entire time I was writing, I was doing this, where on the left side, so let's say, let me go ahead and go here. I'll go like a chapter 10 or something fun, you know? So I have chapter 10 here, and then I have the preview there. So as you can see, what I'm doing is I'm writing the ASCII doc on the left side, and then I'm getting the preview of like how that all works on the right side. Now you're seeing this and you're like, oh, this is sort of like, this looks to me a lot like, you know, what's going on already with Markdown. And that's why I say it. It's like Markdown's evil brother. And it doesn't even work all the way correctly, because like this doesn't even look the way it's supposed to look. So, but you could see some stuff happening, right? So you're able to see when I do code comments and I reference code comments, I can actually see them and reference them over here and there. So the trick is, as you're learning ASCII doc, definitely, and if you're doing VS Code, install the ASCII doc preview, and it does an okay job aligning between the two on what's going on over here and what's going on over there. It's not perfect though. As you can see, here's that image code. You can see like it's about to scroll off the screen. It's nearly useless. And then here I am scrolling the right side, and it's not scrolling the left side properly. So it's a little bit of guesswork, especially when it comes to images, but this is what it is. It's almost like writing a large markdown file. And then on the right side, you're getting the results of that. And yeah, I know you're looking at this and saying like, that's not how you do images in Markdown. You're 1,000% right. It is totally a little bit of a brain fight for the first few chapters. But that's why I say lesson one of this, just write a chapter you're willing to come back to and eviscerate. You just got to get the muscle memory. You've just got to get those pieces in there. You just got to go ahead and ride that wave and write. So that's fantastic. So there you go. This is what you look at when you're writing a book, something like this. It's fun.
There's a question of support in the chat. I don't know if you want to answer that now or if you were going to talk about that later.
Yeah, totally. I'm very happy with all this stuff.
Yeah, I can go ahead and, do you want to read it?
Yeah, sure. Actually, why don't you read it, Becca? That's awesome. It makes it feel like there's another person actually asking it.
So Sahil asked, how does O'Reilly assist if you publish with them? For example, do they help you find an illustrator or expect you to do that yourself?
Okay, great question. O'Reilly's level of quality is insanely high. It is so great. They're so wonderful to work with. Basically, you see my diagrams and you see how ugly they are. We've already gotten a taste. They have a set of illustrators. And part of the quality review or the actual editorial process, not only will they go back over my B in English and fix it up to an A+, they will take all of your drawings and then redo them in the O'Reilly style. So an entire team of illustrators will come back, take my disgusting design, and make it look like an O'Reilly book for me. I know Pact, doesn't do that. Manning does have a team, but sometimes they'll choose your drawing or not. O'Reilly sort of ends up holding you to a standard of saying, like, this needs to look. They call it the O'Reilly media format. And so they will take all of your designs and then say, we are going to make this the O'Reilly media format. So, ta-da! You actually have to fight if you want to keep something in your original setup, other than screenshots. And so I've only fought for one image to stay exactly as I designed it, and that's it. And that's because I was like, this image needs this feel, this look, this information on it. That's the only way it'll work. So I kept it. And then my editor, who's amazing, she's absolutely amazing. Every meeting with her was fantastic. She even wrote, she's like, I'm really sad to see this image go because it's not going to be as playful or as entertaining once it gets like re-illustrated. She was like, maybe we even keep this one like this, because I have one section of the book called Bunny Rabbit or Race Car, where you teach the machine to identify if something's a bunny rabbit or a race car. And in there, I have a graph of bunny rabbits and race cars. Yes, I moved them to graph form. And so she did not want to lose that image, but I'm totally okay getting it O'Reillyized, and I feel like it'll be very presentable and awesome in whatever they do.
Do you get to pick the animal on the cover? Someone asked.
No. I wanted to have an alligator on it for the reason that, well, you can veto your animal. So if they give you something, you could be like, I do not want that. I hate it. There's like, if they put a spider on it and you'd be like, why would we let this happen? No spiders on my book. You don't want people losing their shit. So what happens is you get to state whatever kind of semi parameters you want. They'll try to do it the best they can, but the artist and the illustration team come out with these designs. And mine is a diamondback terrapin tortoise on the book. I had originally asked for an alligator but they stayed within some parameter. I said, I would love to have a reptile of some sort, because the two books that are most influential in TensorFlow right now are reptiles. So I was like, we might as well stay with reptile exhibit. I'm totally in for staying with that. Can I have an alligator? I'm from New Orleans, and I got a turtle. So it's okay. But I know that there's a reason I can't have this. as I said before, you would just have a bunch of, space dragons that can fly around with cyborg pieces attached to them if coders were allowed to pick their animals. No one would ever have any of this stuff. So, mm, yeah, apparently we do have some creative license, like push back, ask for the animal to be like moved around or do certain things or add more or stuff like that. But for the most part, if you've ever worked in the design department that actually has power, yeah, they're gonna send you quality, but you're gonna have to like enjoy what they've sent you. So yeah, I'm sure everybody would love puppy dogs or dragons on their books otherwise, or
We've
a
got
bear.
a couple other questions in the chat. I just don't want to lose them. So one was, if you were self-publishing, would you personally use AshiDoc again for a regular
Mhm.
ebook that isn't as much code and more of just text and images? They were considering using a rich text editor like Google Docs.
So you can use Google Docs. I think that the part here that you want to do early on, and this is one of the great things from day one. So let's say we're doing a mobile app with our company. One of the first things we want to do is we want to get that mobile app in your hand as soon as possible, even though it's in like a beta form. We want you clicking, we want your thumb moving around and actually trying these things out. Well, one of the things that there's nothing there, there's no substance yet, but we want you to like have it in your hand because there's this aha moment when you're actually clicking on things and doing that. And that needs to go throughout the entire process. The Google Doc is fine, but what you've got to do is whatever your final process is, whatever's the generator, and that's one of the things they showed you in the portal, which I thought was really cool, is that I can from day one publish, like give me a PDF of my book, give me all the pieces, let me know if there's going to crash, error, or anything like that. And then so if you have a Google Doc, whatever the process is, if you're going to self-publish to Amazon, need to like see what the format needs to be.
Mm.
And I would say like the most important thing to do is you could add all these fantastic things maybe in Google Doc that the printer can't handle. And is it being printed in color or is it not? Like what's happening? You will need to see the format of this going through the entire process as close to possible. And then it's totally okay. Because for me, I'm going to follow whatever the publishing platform has. That's why I went through AsciiDoc rather than, trying to go another thing and then having it converted or something like that. I want to feel what the book's going to look like. And I know it's silly, but in some sections, I wanted to like break to the next page just to give that sort of right feel. Like I don't want the text underneath that to be there when it's just a few lines opening a new concept. Like part of my brain is like, what is this story? What is it going to feel like to do this? And thinking about what the final feel of is key. And when we're writing blog posts online, it's pretty much when you're writing in Medium or something like that, see the final version as you're writing it. It's totally WYSIWYG. But if you have WYSIWYG for the publishing process, and it's impossible almost entirely to do that, you need to get as close to that as possible. And so I wouldn't mind using Google Doc or AsciiDoc or Markdown. Any of those now I feel very comfortable with. But that little preview on the right side and that ability to publish it instantly is super important for telling a story, because narrative is very different than information exchange. A book is half and half of both.
Thank you. That was a really great answer. The other question was about the percentages. Let me scroll back up, find it. Maybe. Sorry, my chat froze and then it wouldn't let me scroll, so I had to exit out and come back in. Okay, so what kind of percentage you get of the sales, and
Okay.
do they are helping with promotion? So what does that look like?
So here's a funny thing. Here's what I'll say. If you want to write for a publisher, you're not doing it for money. You can kiss that money goodbye. I am not going to make any money off this book, in my opinion, in book sales. Let me clarify that. So sure, there will be some check that comes my way. And yes, I do know there are stories of people who make their entire living off of books in the tech industry. I've met them. I know what's going on there. But let's say this: if you're going to publish through Pact, Manning, O'Reilly, you are going to have, the goal here is to have a successful book, not to make a bunch of money off of it. If you want to make money off your book, you're going to need to self-publish. You're going to need to self-market. You're going to need to do a lot of like other stuff, especially in the tech world. Your cost per time in book writing is negligible. It's terrible. If you were to take a look, if I went and programmed for 5 hours, or if I wrote for 5 hours, programming for 5 hours will make you infinitely more money. It's not even close. It's not even close. It's unfair to compare the two. But what's your marketing budget? Is your marketing budget, if you wrote for 5 hours and it didn't lose money, and now you're established as an authority, or you're established as a setup, and you have another place where you can go either give talks, or you can receive work, and you're building an industry and you're building this cornerstone, well, then you are spending the best marketing money you can. That is fantastic. It will bring work. It will help. When I wrote my first book in 2014, someone in Florida found me. He was like, I want you to teach our team how to do this. I want us to work together. I want this. He's like, this is what I want to have happen for my team. Like, you're the guy. Like, let's talk about this. And that's what happened from my Pact Publishing little book in 2014 in some niche technology. I think that in marketing wise, and in career wise, fantastic move. If you bring it to the money, it loses instantly. And it's very hard to draw the line from this to a contract that I land next year. There's no telling if, like, we were in a sales call and someone said, well, it sounds like you want to use some Tensorflow Js on staff. Of course, we have, Gant Laborde. I'm not in the sales call, for example. We have Gant Laborde, author of the O'Reilly book, Learning Tensorflow JS, etc. It was bestseller in the Java category, which, by the way, is true. I don't know how I got bestseller in Java. That's hilarious. It's not even out yet, so there's not that many Java books. but it's got all these different things. And then we land that contract. Do you think we could ever draw that line back to this? It's hard. It's really hard. But what I can tell you is things like this bring contracts like that bring work for not just me, but for my entire company, for my entire team, for entire divisions of my team. And that's the goal of what we really want to do. If you want to make money off of a book, you're going to have to basically make that your entire thing, and you work your butt off, and maybe you'd make a good amount of money. But if your goal is money, I don't think you should be looking at books at all. It's really hard. That's not where it is for immediate dopamine gratification. So yes, I do get a percentage of the book sales. It is small. They do a fantastic job. They've done so much work. I know I wrote a book, but to be honest, it was really fun and exciting with the team, and it's going to be out there. I'm super happy about that. And if I ever do another one, I could probably argue what my percentage was. I don't want to kind of do that to O'Reilly, say where the percentages are and where people should argue that. And I don't know enough to actually kind of confront that. But I could tell you the checks that I got were pretty laughable from my 2014. And I know what percentage I'm getting from this. I'm not going to get a lot of money. So I would say tech books are extremely pirated. I saw somebody say that. Let me tell you this. I saw the other day, like I said, the reptile exhibit of AI, Lawrence's book was, someone went on and got the early copy off of the O'Reilly platform and was just sharing it on Facebook the other day. And, I was like, come on, man. That's the entire PDF sitting there on Facebook in a Facebook group. So yeah, you can expect it to be pirated and stuff.
Also in,
Your goals have to be different.
sorry, again, just going to say also in university, most actually of our textbooks are O'Reilly books, which is actually very nice and impressive. But I mean, no, like students don't really, buy them, Some of them are also expensive, like $50 each book. And then you have like 4 courses a period and then 1 textbook for a course. Then, you need to find your ways around it, But
totally
other than that,
sense.
Supporting writers, absolutely, super important.
Yeah.
But other than that,
yeah. I think it was, probably most of my sales will come from friends who want me to sign their book. My brother is a pharmacist, has a pre-copy already set. He's already purchased it off of Amazon, so I'll be signing a book for my brother, and it's a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed that part of it. And then the connections and the people who I'll sort of like make from this, and then this conversation here, like getting to chat with you all and kind of talk about the innards of the process. Your heart's really got to be aligned with this more so than if you want to make money doing a book. We could have an entire conversation about what I've seen people do and how they've made a lot of money off of books, self-publishing, and what their strategy was. Lots of them already had large audiences. Lots of them already kind of like brought those audiences to bear and like almost like selling a course, like you are the person who sells the course, you're the person who sells the book. In that case, yeah, there's a lot of stuff you could do pretty well.
I know Kyle has his hand up.
Oops, sorry, I didn't have the hands available.
That's fine.
Hit me, Kyle.
Oh yeah, you're totally fine. This is kind of related to a lot of that stuff. So I'm not going to ask you to badmouth your publisher. So one of the things with O'Reilly was when they switched from the DRM free ebook model to just the Safari sort of subscription. And I know there's like a play there, right? So on the one hand, you're definitely not writing for the money, but piracy is definitely not good. But the model then makes it sort of like unsustainable for people to buy kind of like less expensive ebooks. And I guess the question isn't so much about that. It's to what extent you have control. Because my understanding now is the only place to get sort of like DRM free sort of like EPUB copies of those books is through something like Humble Bundle. And so whether you have any kind of control over if those get offered through that medium or that, and probably not, but then sort of like likewise, like how you think about it in terms of those resources to a certain extent being locked up. Like I know you're going to do things like this. You kind of are going to write other play. You don't necessarily need the book to learn the things from you, but it's the nice sort of like concise thing. Just kind of how you process through all that. Because I know a lot of the time you are writing it for it to get out there, but the fact that it is for sale and the way that it is makes it maybe harder for people to access in some sense. So I know that's a lot, but
that's let me see, and then let me know if I miss any pieces of that. So one of the things that comes across on us is that I'd say like be careful of almost parasitic businesses that do sort of the same thing without the services of that. And so what I'll say is like there are some companies that will just sort of are looking to get people to write things, and then they kind of get people to buy things. And I can tell you there's certain books I have on my shelf I bought and I've been like, this book is useless. I'm not going to name the authors, I'm not going to name the books, but I'm like, this book is like, there are some places that are trying to publish a subset of the internet for sale, and they have large contracts with like schools and businesses where these things, like they feel like they're doing stuff for their team by putting those books on shelves and like making them available. And then there's like these bookshelves that are full of things that no one would actually really, that are holding up the one book everybody uses, right? So what I'll say is that like what's fortunate about this is that the criticism of some of the companies, and I'll say like O'Reilly really puts in the effort and it did a great job. Now that platform where you can access all the O'Reilly media platform, which I highly recommend, is a great way to get books for super cheap because you get access to ridiculous amounts of books from ridiculous amounts of publishers. that is such a like a valuable add of that information. And it's, you don't feel as bad when, it feels like when you're sitting at Barnes and Noble. Let me just say, like, when you used to go to Barnes and Noble, you grab like 5 books, you get that disgusting chair you're not supposed to sit in, right? And you sit in that disgusting chair, and then you open all those 5 books and you figure out which of those you're going home with. Like, okay, I'm taking this one and this one, and then I'm going to put these back on the shelf. That sort of is virtualized, I think, on the O'Reilly Media platform. I feel like they've kind of like brought that in there, but you can take any of those books, because what's happening now is we're competing for people's time, energy, and attention. And it's not so much the same aspect. And I think the entire paradigm has changed. They do a great job of that. And then I think that their marketing person really coaches people to sort of like go out there and like take ownership of their own books and kind of like do their own kind of thing. I really enjoyed working with people who cared as much about things as I cared about it. And I think that that's kind of like all of our curses here at Virtual Coffee. You want to be around people who care. And so I think that that's the biggest advantage, I'd say, of going that. And they kind of did a good job about it. And I had 6 reviewers read the book, and 6 different full book reviews coming back to me chapter by chapter. It was beautiful to read. I loved it. They came from different backgrounds and different information. I got one reviewer who kind of read the book back in 2014. So it's set your expectations. And like I said, if your expectation is to kill the publishing barrier, to get to writing because you feel that way, if you want to write it and you want to like be around people who enjoy it, great. If you wanted to make the money off of it, probably not the right spot. I know they do a lot of marketing and placement and all those other things. You can't affect the price of your book. If tomorrow you buy the book and it's $50, and then next day it's on sale for $25 or something like that, I didn't do that. I can't do that. I don't know why they do that, and I have zero control over that. I'm kind of okay with that because I'm not going with the I need to like make my living off this book kind of angle. Whereas Becca, like when you're doing your own course, and I've done my own course as well, you have to like put on that hat now. Like, all right, am I doing a Black Friday sale? Okay, how am I doing this? What's my price? What's going on? How am I going to promote this? Where am I going to go? All right. Hey, by the way, I need to update this, over here. So it's a little nice working with professionals like that. I'll let them take the domains that I don't have time for, to be honest. Hopefully that answers the ideals. They have entire groups of people. And to be honest, the best thing I think I can do is do my best to sort of like make sure they're like, hey, this one has promise. We're going to kind of like play with this one for this month and kind of put it here and do it there. If I was at the bottom of the pile, they probably wouldn't put it on anything or show anybody. So yeah, it's a little bit different. So
I know we've just got a couple more minutes here. We're almost about to hit time. So I want to make sure if there's something else you want to cover, you have time to do that.
I just want to say thanks. I didn't get a bunch of names, or like, I guess I needed to get some more specific questions. If you can DM me inside the Virtual Coffee and write your question, I'll put it in a blog post. I'd be happy to like kind of share that. I really enjoy this community and kind of talk about that. If any of you are ever interested in publishing, talk to me about it. This is my second book. I'd be happy to go ahead and guide you. I actually just connected someone who works with the Vue community to the, they were like, oh man, I wish I could write it. I was like, it's this easy. Hey, blah, I'm not gonna say his name. Here's blah, intro. And now he's doing his kickoff for a potential book. And I told him, I was like, if you get this, I'm gonna set aside a couple hours to show you like all their software and all the ASCII doc stuff and all the examples that you need. And then you'll be off to the races. I wish somebody had done that for me. I'm happy to be that person for any of you.
Thank you so much, Gant. I appreciate that. And also a little spoiler here, Gant is going to be on season 2 of the Virtual Coffee podcast. Woo! So if you have questions for him, you can DM me or hit us up at podcast@virtualcoffee.io.
Nice.
So let's see. Oh, there's some things in the chat. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything.
And feel free to message me anytime after this. You know, like I said, this is a great chance. I didn't know what kind of questions people would have. I've gotten so many fun questions through Twitter and all these other places. So I hope that this was quasi inspiring and fun. And one of the things I wanted to do is take away the fear. I had a little bit of fear. I'll be honest. I was like, I don't know if I can write that much. Get in the zone, learn the stuff, have fun. Next thing I know, by the way, this book was supposed to come out in 2022. I just finished it really fast. It was a lot of fun. So
that is awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was really great. I know I learned a lot, and this is something that it's been on my list to like figure out more about. So I'm very happy you did it. So thank you so
Becca,
much.
I'm gonna want a signed copy of your book when you write it.
Oh yes, for sure.
Right. Good.
You can have the signed copy. I will send you the first one. It's fine.
Awesome.
Thank you all for being here and for asking your questions. Again, go ahead and feel free to send Gant some questions as well through DMs or follow him on Twitter. I dropped that in the chat. And that is all for today. So we've got another brown bag coming up on Friday. You can check that out on our events page, and have a great day, everyone.
Bye.